friends, Lori here. I'm back for day 11, I believe. Yes. Day 11 of BookMas. So this topic is some sequels that I am keeping my eye on in 2022. This will be a mix of middle grade and YA because that's mostly what I read. Um, I am not successful at reading sequels all of the time. I think I'm going to make it a reading goal to at least read one sequel a month to try to at least motivate me a little bit. But these are the sequels that I have my eye on. The first one is a middle grade book. It comes out relatively early in the year, and it is Amari and the Great Game by B.B. Elston. It comes out February 1st, and here is a photo. In debuts that I really enjoyed, and this is the second book, so I don't want to talk too much spoilers. But the first book, Amari is dealing with the death of, with the disappearance of her brother, but when she sent a suitcase, she realized her brother's life may not be as ordinary as she predicted, and she gets sent to this magical school. And it was a wild, twisty, turny ride, and there was a lot that happened at the very end of the book. I'm sure book 2 will sort of like expound on that. I'm really excited for this one. It's probably going to be a book that I pre-order. That's also a video that's going to be coming soon, so keep an eye out for that. But yeah, I'm really excited for this one and really excited to see what happens next in the series. Definitely has a special place next to my heart. And I really did like the first book, and I think it might become a new middle grade series that I really, really enjoy. That I've read quite a bit. Like, it's been a bit since I read this book, but it is the Midnight Orchestra, which is book 2 for the Mystic School of Music and of Music Craft. That's like a really, really weird title, but I really liked the first book. I got it as an Audible original like a couple of years ago when they were still doing like the buy one, like you got 2 originals. So that was one that I chose, and I really loved it. Here's the cover for the second book. Loving the audiobook because it had like music interplayed in the audiobook. So I hope that they do that again because I love that. I love like the way I listen to it. But the summary, I don't know if it's like a direct sequel or if it's a companion. It might be a direct sequel. In the spellbinding sequel to Mystic School of Musicraft, Amelia must master the magic of composing to help her school win a magical competition and save her friends from a mysterious evil. I am intrigued. I added it to my TBR and hopefully I remember to actually pick it up. But I'm definitely going to gear towards the audiobook for this one because I love my listening experience the first time around. Books I am going to chat about is all Rick Riordan Presents books. 2 are sequels and one's the 5th book in a series, but I am so invested in that series. I will definitely read it this year. So the first book I'm going to talk about is the companion book to Dragonpaw by Yoon-Ha Lee. It's called Tiger Honor. It comes out just in January. We don't have a specific date yet. And I know with the publishing crisis, stuff might get pushed, but that just says January. So hopefully that's right. And here is the pretty cover. The book is the companion to Dragonpaw Pearl. It's set in the same world. Which is a space opera focusing on Korean mythology. But this book is told from the point of view of a non-binary tiger spirit. I am immediately intrigued. So I'm really excited for this one. Hope I'm able to pick it up and be able to share my thoughts with you. I just love what Rick Riordan Present is doing with these books, and I'm really impressed with them all. But next is my personal favorite, and that is the sequel to A Last Fallen Star by Gracie Kim. The title will be here, but then I will say it. So this book is going to be called The Last Fallen Moon. It is a direct sequel. I loved The Last Fallen Star, like adored it. I thought it was such a really well-crafted Rick Riordan Presents novel. And I'll be honest, the end of The Last Fallen Star left me in a little bit of an emotional peril. So I'm really curious to see how they're going to fix it. I don't want to spoil anything, but I'm really excited for this one and definitely will be checking out in June. The cover is so pretty, and I really love these characters a lot. I got to see them again in The Cursed Carnival for a short story set before The Last Fallen Star, but I'm excited to see all the hijinks in book 2, and I hope you are as well. The Rick Riordan Present novel I'm going to talk about is Arusha and the Nectar of Immortality, and this comes out April 5th. In the series, and if you have read it or have not, there is this is about Pandava mythology, and these are the Pandava people, and they are trying to save the world, and they have less than a week to stop the sleeper from rising. And it is, I loved the first book in the series. That was really, really good. As the books go on, they just get better and better and better. I love City of Gold so much. It had massive Percy Jackson vibes, which I was so here for. I don't know if this is going to be the last book in the series, but I really have grown to love all of these characters, and hopefully we get a really, really nice conclusion. So I'll keep you guys updated when I get around to reading it, but it's definitely will get read next year. I have actual arcs up, which is really exciting. So the first one is Wild Lore, The Weeping Tide by Amanda Foodie. This is book 2 in the Wild Lore series. Barkley and his friends must save an island city from a legendary beast of the sea in the second book in the Wild Lore series, perfect for fans of Nevermore and How to Train Your Dragon. I really did like Wild Lore, the first book, because it was in the forest. I read it like right around early spring. This one's an underwater one, and it just seems so cute. I really did like her writing style quite a bit, and I like this a lot more than her YA book that I read, but I do have her young adult companion, where she's a dual author, also on my TBR, but this one's really, really cute. I like the cover. I got this from Simon & Schuster. They sent it to me, and I really am hopeful that I will get around to this soon. It is coming out in February. I have put it on this TBR, so I will try to read it in 2022, but if I read it in 2021, don't be angry. But this is just something to mention, that it's coming out in 2022 for the rest of the world. I just happen to have an early copy. The YA version, which is definitely more of what I do read, but I do love middle grade, and I have been reading a lot more in recent years. But I also was sent a copy of Ashes of Gold by J.L., which is the second book to Wings of Ebony, which I talked about in my debut books that I really enjoyed. This is the sequel. I said it had a nice balance between paranormal elements, but also like more modern elements, and I thought the end of this series was really interesting, so I'm excited to see what book 2 is like. This cover is so pretty. So these are 2 arcs that I was sent by Simon & Schuster for review, so hopefully I will get around to reading them, but I don't want to talk too much about this because I feel like it will probably spoil book 1 for you, but I'm really excited for this one, and definitely excited that I have an early copy of it. Talk about our books that I'm really excited for, and I will most likely read in 2022. I always say that, and then they don't get read. But these I'm really excited for. So the first one is Blood Marked by Tracy Dion. Here is a photo. Cover. And this is the sequel to Legendborn, which is the Arthur-inspired retelling. The first book followed a young girl. She's dealing with grief with the death of her mother, and she winds up going to this high school program at UC Chapel Hill, where she realizes their Merlin and the Merlin line is alive and well. And it was a really fast-paced story. I really liked this book, and I still actually kept a copy. You know I like a book if I keep a copy of it. So still in my bookshelf. I'm probably going to need to reread or re-listen to it, but it's not coming out till July, so I do have time to do that. But I like this one quite a bit, and I thought it was really, really interesting. I'm excited to see where book 2 goes. I'm a big Arthurian Legend and Merlin fan, so I'm excited, and I hope if you've not checked out Legendborn, you add it to your backlist TBR, because I really like this one. Next book that I am going to chat about is The King Will Kill You by Sarah Henning. Here's the photo. In the Princess Will Save You series, I think it has like an official title of the series, but I love book 1. It is like one of my favorite romance tropes. I actually have book 2 on my December TBR, so I really hope I get around to reading it. But I love book 1. I actually I reread it this year, hoping that I would move on. But I'm excited to see how book 2 goes and then how the conclusion goes. But these covers are just so pretty. Like, I think I still have a copy of The Princess Will Save You still somewhere in this room, but I am really excited for this book, and I'm looking forward to catching up and then concluding the series this year. I chat about is one that I am really thrilled about. I adore Jennifer Lynn Barnes. I think I've read all of her young adult books that she's published, and The Final Gambit is coming out August 30th. I am really excited for this one. I just read Hawthorne Legacy a couple of weeks back, so I'm really excited for this one. This cover is so pretty, and here's a photo. Knives Out meets, Cinderella meets murder, like mysteries and clues, and I really like this series quite a bit. Jennifer Lynn Barnes, if you've never read a Jennifer Lynn Barnes series before, is very good at creating tightly wound stories. And I just expect insanity in this last book. She did it in her Natural series. She did it in her Debutante series. So I'm just expecting insanity in this last book and see how everything kind of pieces together. But I like the first two books quite a bit. I actually gave them to my students. And I hope that they're liking them as well. But I'm really excited for this one. This cover is so pretty. Comes out the end of August. I will definitely be reading this before I go back to school. I mentioned this book, but it doesn't have a cover or anything. Hopefully soon. But Chain of Thorns from Cassie's Claire's The Last Hour series is coming out. I'm a big, huge fan of Cassie Clare. I'm really excited for more books for her in the future. She's also going to dive into some adult fiction, which I think will be right up my alley. But this is the third book in that series. It was pushed. It was supposed to come out in March. It's coming out in November. I don't know how I can prepare myself to wait that long for it, but I really like these characters. So I'm really excited to see how this trilogy concludes. I'm probably going to have to do a reread of the first two books in this series, but it's definitely on this list. I just had to mention it, even though there is no cover. I'm going to chat about is the sequel to The Gilded Ones, which I also talked about in my debut books that I really, really loved. So hopefully I get around to this one and I read it in a timely fashion. Here is the photo. Out in April 5th, 2022. And this book has been, this book will take place 6 months after The Gilded One. So I'm really excited for this one. I definitely need to add it to some TBRs and hopefully get it read in a timely fashion. But I really did like The Gilded One, so I'm excited to see where the sequel goes. I remember the last chunk of that book was super action-packed, so I hope the end of that book will kind of flesh out what has actually happened and what a time jump. I'm hopeful, so I'm excited for that one as well. And then the last book I'm going to chat about in this video is Beyond the End of the World by Amy Kaufman and Megan Spooner. So this is the sequel to Under the Never Sky, I think. I think that's the title of it. And the end of the book ended in such a unique fashion. I'm really excited to read book 2. I read this book midway through the year, I would say. I did enjoy it. I don't think it's my favorite property they have wrote together, but I'm intrigued enough to keep reading, so that's why it's on this list. And I don't even have to wait that long because it comes out January 4th or 5th. So these are all the sequels, YA and middle grade, that I'm keeping my eye out in 2022. Sorry. But let me know in the comments if I missed any sequels. I'm sure I have. I'm sure there's books coming out that I've read recently that I said, oh my god, I can't wait for the sequel, and then I don't mention it in this list. But let me know in the comments what are some sequels you are super excited for in 2022, and I'll talk to you guys for my next video. Bye, friends.